I financed brand new bikes, gaming systems, and attire for my brother's Offspring before Christmas. My son received one pen and Dad stated, funds were limited. When my boy asked, was I not good enough? I gathered each box with my name on the receipt, messaged items recovered to the family group, and by evening my brother stood outside my apartment going insane. Imagine spending your entire life being the silent, dependable one for your family, giving and giving, only to watch them dismiss your own child, telling you his joy isn't worth their time. That's exactly what happened to me, and the moment my 7-year-old son asked, Dad, was I not good enough? Something inside me snapped, changing everything forever. My name is Ryan Foster, and I'm 32 years old. For most of my adult life, I've been the quiet one, the dependable one, the brother who shows up when nobody else even remembers to call back. Kevin is my older brother by 4 years. Growing up, he was the golden child, the football star, the kid who got the new car at 16 while I inherited Dad's rusted pickup at 19. He was the son who could do no wrong, even when he dropped out of college twice and moved back home with a new excuse each time. I learned early that my role in the family was simple. Be present, be useful, do not complain. Do not ask why Kevin's mistakes were always forgiven while mine were dissected at every Sunday dinner. When Kevin had his first child, a daughter named Madison, our parents threw a baby shower that cost more than my college graduation party. When his second child arrived, a son named Tyler, Dad personally built a tree house in the backyard. When his third child came along, a daughter named Sophie, Mom redecorated the entire guest bedroom into a nursery, complete with custom wallpaper and a rocking chair imported from some boutique in Vermont. I watched all of it happen with the same quiet acceptance I had practiced since childhood. I told myself it didn't bother me. I told myself that family meant showing up, even when nobody noticed you were there. By the time I had Ethan, my son, 7 years ago, the excitement in our family had definitely dimmed. Mom sent a card. Dad called once. Kevin never even visited the hospital. There was no baby shower, no treehouse, no custom nursery. Just a quiet acknowledgement that another foster had entered the world, though not one worth celebrating the way Kevin's kids had been. Ethan grew up knowing his cousins were special. He saw the way Grandma's face lit up when Madison walked into the room. He noticed how Grandpa always had $20 bills tucked into Tyler's jacket pocket. He felt the difference every time we visited, every time the family gathered, every time Sophie got a new toy while Ethan sat quietly on the couch with his old tablet. I told myself it was okay. I told myself Ethan didn't notice. I told myself I was being sensitive, reading too much into normal family dynamics. But I knew the truth. I had always known. I was the backup son, the insurance policy, the one they called when Kevin needed a loan, or when Dad's car broke down, or when Mom wanted someone to drive her to a doctor's appointment across town. I was dependable, yes, but I was not loved the way Kevin was loved. This year, as Thanksgiving approached, Kevin called me out of nowhere. We hadn't spoken in 3 months. He sounded stressed, frantic even. Ryan, I need a favor. I should have known better. I should have recognized the tone, the setup, the familiar pattern of asking without offering. But I am my father's son, which means I said yes before I even heard the request. Kevin explained that he had overextended himself financially. New house, new cars, private school for Madison, football league for Tyler, dance lessons for Sophie. He had charged everything to credit cards, assuming his sales bonuses would cover the balances. They had not. Christmas was 6 weeks away. He had promised his kids an incredible holiday. Bikes, gaming consoles, designer clothes, everything they'd circled in catalogs and bookmarked online. He couldn't afford any of it. He couldn't bear to disappoint them. And then came the ask, delivered with the casual entitlement that only a golden child can muster. Could you cover Christmas for my kids? I'll pay you back after the new year. I just need help getting through the holidays. I hesitated. For the first time in my life, I hesitated. What about Ethan? I asked. Kevin paused, then laughed. Not a cruel laugh, but one that made it clear he hadn't considered my son at all. Ethan's a good kid. He'll understand. You can get him something small. He's not into all that flashy stuff anyway, right? I hung up and stared at my phone for a long time. I thought about Ethan. I thought about the way he smiled when I took him to the park. I thought about the way he never asked for much, never complained, never made me feel like I was failing him. And then I opened my laptop and started shopping. I bought bikes. I bought consoles. I bought clothes. I spent over $4,000 on gifts for Kevin's kids, all purchased under my parents' names so Kevin could take credit for providing a magical Christmas. I didn't buy anything for Ethan yet. I told myself I would figure it out later. I told myself there was still time. But deep down, I knew the truth. I was doing it again, playing my role, being dependable, disappearing into the background so Kevin could shine. Christmas morning arrived, cold and gray. I drove Ethan to my parents' house at 8 o'clock in the morning, the same time Kevin's family pulled up in their new SUV. Madison, Tyler, and Sophie spilled out of the car, screaming with excitement, their voices cutting through the frozen air. Ethan held my hand as we walked inside. He was wearing a sweater I had bought him 2 weeks earlier, a simple blue pullover from a department store clearance rack. He looked small next to his cousins, who were dressed in matching Christmas pajamas that cost more than my monthly grocery bill. Mom opened the door and immediately scooped Sophie into her arms, spinning her around while Dad patted Tyler on the head and complimented his new sneakers. Kevin stood behind them, grinning, soaking in the praise like he had earned it. Nobody greeted Ethan. Nobody said Merry Christmas to my son. I felt the familiar sting, the one I had trained myself to ignore. But this time, watching Ethan's face fall as he realized he was invisible again, I felt something sharper, something that made my chest tighten. The living room was a disaster of wrapping paper and ribbon. Presents were stacked everywhere, most of them labeled with my parents' names, though I knew exactly who had paid for them. I recognized the bike boxes. I recognized the gaming console packaging. I recognized the designer clothing bags. Kevin's kids tore into the presents with the efficiency of seasoned professionals. Madison shrieked when she opened her new bike, a sleek purple model with streamers and a bell. Tyler ripped through the wrapping on his gaming console, already talking about which games he wanted to download. Sophie danced around the room in her new ballet outfit, twirling until she knocked over a lamp. Ethan sat on the couch watching. His small pile of presents sat untouched beside him. 2 boxes, both wrapped in plain red paper. Mom noticed him sitting there and smiled. The kind of smile you give a stranger's child at the grocery store. Ethan, honey, aren't you going to open your gifts? He nodded and carefully peeled back the tape on the first box. Inside was a pack of socks, white, generic, the kind you buy in bulk. He smiled anyway. Thank you, Grandma. The second box was smaller. Ethan opened it slowly, his fingers trembling slightly. Inside was a single ballpoint pen, blue ink, plastic casing, the kind you get for free at a bank. He stared at it for a long moment, his face unreadable. Then he looked up at me, his brown eyes searching mine for an explanation I couldn't give. Across the room, Kevin's kids were already playing with their new toys, their laughter filling the house. Dad sat in his recliner, smiling at the chaos, while Mom took photos on her phone, capturing every moment of Madison's joy, Tyler's excitement, Sophie's twirls. Ethan held the pen in his small hand and turned to my father. Grandpa, was the budget tight this year? Dad glanced at him, surprised by the question. He shrugged, not unkindly, but with the casual indifference of someone who hadn't thought about Ethan at all. Money's been tough, kiddo. You know how it is. Ethan nodded slowly. He looked back down at the pen, turning it over in his fingers. Then he looked at me again, and this time I saw tears forming in the corners of his eyes. He whispered so quietly I almost didn't hear him. Dad, was I not good enough? The room didn't stop. The laughter didn't pause. The cousins didn't look up from their new bikes and consoles. Nobody noticed the question. Nobody heard my son ask why he was worth a pen while his cousins were worth thousands. But I heard it. Every word. Every syllable. Something inside me cracked. Not loudly, not violently, just a clean, quiet break, like ice splitting under pressure. I stood up, my hand steady, my mind suddenly very clear. I walked over to the pile of discarded wrapping paper and began picking up boxes. One by one. The bike boxes, the console boxes, the clothing bags. Every single item with my name on the receipt, hidden beneath my parents' cheerful gift tags. Kevin looked up from his phone, confused. Ryan, what are you doing? I didn't answer. I kept collecting. Box after box, bag after bag. Mom stepped forward, her smile fading. Ryan, sweetheart, what's going on? I stacked the last box in my arms and turned toward the door. Ethan was already standing, his pen clutched in one hand, his face pale. Kevin's voice rose, sharp and defensive. Ryan, seriously, what the hell are you doing? I opened the front door, cold air rushing in. I looked back once, meeting Kevin's eyes. Gifts retrieved. Then I walked out, Ethan beside me, leaving the room in stunned silence. The drive home was silent. I could feel Ethan watching me from the passenger seat, his small hands folded in his lap, the pen still gripped between his fingers like a lifeline. I kept my eyes on the road, my knuckles white against the steering wheel. My phone buzzed in the cup holder. Once, twice, 10 times. I didn't look at it. Ethan finally spoke, his voice small and careful. Dad, are they mad? I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay steady. Probably. He nodded, accepting this without protest. He had learned early not to push, not to ask too many questions, not to make waves. He was 7 years old, and he already knew how to make himself smaller. That realization hit me harder than anything else. My son had learned to be invisible because I had taught him through my own silence, through my own acceptance of the role our family had assigned us. We pulled into the apartment complex parking lot. I turned off the engine, but didn't move. Ethan unbuckled his seatbelt and waited, patient and quiet. Ethan, I said, my voice cracking slightly. You are good enough. You have always been good enough. He looked at me, his eyes wide and serious. Then why did they give me a pen? I had no answer. Not one that would make sense to a 7-year-old. Not one that would explain decades of favoritism, of being the backup son, of watching my brother's children receive the love and attention my own child deserved. So I said the only thing I could. Because I let them. Ethan frowned, confused. I reached over and took the pen from his hand, holding it up to the light. This pen is not a gift, Ethan. It is a message. It is them telling us we do not matter. And I am done receiving that message. He stared at me, processing this with the solemn intensity only children possess. Then he nodded, as if he understood something I had taken 32 years to figure out. We went inside. I unloaded the boxes from the car, stacking them in the living room. Bikes, consoles, clothes. Thousands of dollars in gifts I had bought for children who barely knew my name. I sat on a couch and pulled out my phone. 37 missed calls. 62 text messages. All from Kevin, Mom, and Dad. Kevin's messages were furious, frantic, laced with profanity I wouldn't repeat in front of Ethan. Mom's messages were pleading, confused, asking me to explain what had happened. Dad's messages were short and dismissive, telling me I was overreacting and needed to grow up. Not one of them mentioned Ethan. Not one of them asked how my son felt. Not one of them acknowledged the pen, the socks, the silent humiliation of being worth nothing on Christmas morning. I opened the family group chat, the one we had used for years to coordinate holidays and birthdays and Sunday dinners. I typed 2 words, gifts retrieved. Then I muted the chat and set my phone face down on the coffee table. Ethan climbed onto the couch beside me, his head resting against my shoulder. He didn't ask what I was going to do with the gifts. He didn't ask when we would see Grandma and Grandpa again. He just sat there, trusting me in a way I had never trusted my own parents. I thought about Kevin. I thought about the way he had laughed when I asked about Ethan. The way he had dismissed my son as someone who would understand, someone who didn't need flashy things, someone who didn't matter. I thought about my parents. I thought about the way they had smiled at Madison and Tyler and Sophie. The way they had handed Ethan a pen without a second thought. The way they had shrugged when he asked if the budget was tight. I thought about myself. I thought about every loan I had given Kevin, every favor I had done for my parents, every time I had swallowed my hurt and played the dependable son, the invisible brother, the man who existed only to support everyone else's happiness. And I realized something that should have been obvious years ago. I was done. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. Ethan was still asleep in his bedroom. The door cracked open, the faint sound of his breathing a steady rhythm in the quiet apartment. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table with my laptop. My phone was still muted, still face down, still buzzing with messages I had no intention of reading yet. I opened my banking app and started scrolling. Transactions, transfers, payments. Years of financial support laid out in neat digital rows. Kevin's car insurance. I had been paying it for 16 months after he missed a payment and begged me to cover it temporarily. Temporarily had turned into a standing monthly transfer of $247. Canceled. Kevin's gym membership. Premium level. $89 a month. He had asked me to add him to my corporate discount plan 3 years ago, promising to reimburse me. He never had. Canceled. Madison's dance lessons, private studio, $150 a month. Kevin had told me it was an investment in her future, that she had real talent, that he would pay me back when his next bonus came through. Canceled. Tyler's football league fees, $200 per season, plus equipment costs. I had been covering it for 2 years because Kevin claimed the league was too expensive and he didn't want Tyler to miss out. Canceled. Sophie's preschool tuition. The fancy Montessori school across town. $450 a month. Kevin had enrolled her without asking me first, then called me in a panic when the first bill arrived, swearing he would pay me back within 60 days. Canceled. Dad's streaming services. Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Spotify Premium. I had added them to my accounts years ago during a visit when Dad complained about the cost. He had never offered to pay his share. Canceled. Mom's cell phone plan. She was on my family plan, had been since she broke her old phone, and needed a replacement immediately. I had told her it was temporary. That was 4 years ago. Canceled. The family cloud storage account. 2 terabytes filled with photos of Madison, Tyler, and Sophie. Birthday parties I had not been invited to. Holidays I had not been included in. Vacations I had helped pay for, but never attended. Deleted. One by one, I went through every recurring payment, every standing transfer, every subscription and service that tied me financially to a family that had given my son a pen for Christmas. It took 40 minutes. 40 minutes to sever years of silent support. Years of being the dependable one. Years of funding a life I was never truly part of. When I finished, I leaned back in my chair and stared at the screen. My monthly expenses had dropped by over $1,500. $1,500 I had been spending every single month to keep Kevin's life comfortable, to keep my parents connected, to maintain the illusion that I was valued. My phone buzzed again. I picked it up and opened the family group chat. The messages were frantic now. Kevin was demanding I return the gifts immediately. Mom was asking me to please call her back. Dad was telling me I was acting like a child. I scrolled past them all and opened my text conversation with Kevin. I typed slowly, deliberately. Check my budget. Money's been tough. You know how it is. I hit send and watched the message turn blue. Read. Kevin was typing. Then he stopped. Then he started again. Ryan, what the hell is wrong with you? I didn't respond. I closed the app and set my phone back down. Ethan wandered into the kitchen, rubbing his eyes. He looked at me, then at the laptop, then back at me. Are we in trouble? I smiled. A real smile. The first one I'd felt in days. No, buddy. We are not in trouble. He climbed into the chair across from me, his legs swinging beneath the table. What are we going to do with all those toys? I glanced at the living room, at the stack of boxes still sitting unopened. Evidence of a Christmas I had funded and a family that had forgotten us. I don't know yet, but we will figure it out. Ethan nodded, accepting this. He reached across the table and picked up my coffee mug, taking a small sip before making a face and setting it back down. Dad, yeah, I like the pen. I blinked, surprised. He shrugged, his expression serious. I mean, it wasn't a good gift, but I like that you got mad. I like that you took the toys back. I like that you didn't let them be mean to us anymore. My throat tightened. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. I should have done it a long time ago. He squeezed back. It's okay. You did it now. 3 hours after I sent the message to Kevin, I heard pounding on my apartment door. Hard, aggressive, the kind of knocking that makes neighbors peer through peepholes and dial non-emergency lines. I was in the kitchen making Ethan dinner. Grilled cheese and tomato soup, his favorite. He looked up at me, startled by the noise. Dad, stay here. I walked to the door and check the peephole. Kevin stood in the hallway, his face red, his fists still raised midair. Behind him, I could see Mom hovering near the elevator, her arms wrapped around herself, her expression worried. I opened the door, but kept the chain latched. What do you want, Kevin? He stared at me through the gap, his jaw clenched. What do I want? Are you serious right now? I want you to stop acting like a psycho and give me back my kids' Christmas presents. They're not your kids' presents. I paid for them. They're mine. You bought them for my kids. You don't just get to take them back because you're having some kind of breakdown. I could hear Mom behind him, her voice soft and pleading. Ryan, honey, please, let us just talk about this calmly. I ignored her. I kept my eyes on Kevin. You told me Ethan would understand. You told me he didn't need flashy stuff. You told me he wasn't into all that. Kevin's face twisted, defensive. He's not. Ethan is a good kid. He doesn't care about material things. You're right. He's a good kid, which is why he sat on the couch yesterday and watched your kids open thousands of dollars in gifts while he got a pen. And when he asked Grandpa if the budget was tight, Dad shrugged and said, money was tough. Do you remember that, Kevin? Do you remember what happened after that? Kevin faltered, his anger flickering into confusion. What are you talking about? Ethan asked me if he was not good enough. My 7-year-old son asked me if he was not good enough for a real Christmas present. And nobody in that room heard him. Nobody cared. Not you. Not Mom. Not Dad. Nobody. Mom stepped forward, her voice breaking. Ryan, we didn't mean to hurt Ethan. We just thought you would handle his gifts separately. We thought you understood. Understood what? That my son doesn't matter? That Kevin's kids are worth $4,000 and mine is worth 99 cents. Kevin's face darkened again. This is not about the money. This is about you being jealous. You have always been jealous of me. You have always resented that Mom and Dad love me more. The words hung in the air, brutal and honest. I smiled, cold and humorless. You're right, Kevin. They do love you more. They always have. And I spent 32 years trying to earn a fraction of that love by being dependable, by being useful, by paying for your life while pretending it didn't bother me. But I am done now. I am done funding your comfortable life. I am done being invisible. I am done letting my son feel worthless so yours can feel special. Kevin lunged forward, his hand reaching through the gap. Ryan, I swear to God, if you do not give me those presents right now, I step back, my voice calm. Or what, Kevin? You will stop talking to me? You already don't talk to me. You will tell Mom and Dad I am a bad brother? They already think that. You will cut me out of the family? I have been cut out my entire life. I just didn't realize it until yesterday. I started to close the door. Kevin shoved his hand against it, stopping it. Ryan, please. My kids are crying. Madison is devastated. Tyler thinks Santa took back his presents. Sophie doesn't understand what is happening. Please, they are just kids. I looked at him through the gap, and for a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. So, is Ethan. I closed the door. Kevin pounded on it again, shouting, but I walked away. I heard Mom's voice, softer now, trying to calm him down. I heard footsteps retreating down the hallway. I heard the elevator ding, and then there was silence. Ethan was standing in the kitchen doorway, his grilled cheese untouched on the counter. Was that Uncle Kevin? Yeah. Is he mad? Yeah. Ethan nodded, processing this. Good. I laughed, surprised. Ethan smiled, small and tentative. You stood up for me, Dad. That's all I wanted. Not the toys, just you. I pulled him into a hug, holding him tight, feeling the weight of years lift off my shoulders. I'm sorry it took me so long. It's okay. You're doing it now. After Ethan went to bed, I sat at my kitchen table with a stack of papers, bank statements, receipts, transaction histories. Years of financial records documenting every payment, every transfer, every favor I had done for my family without acknowledgement or repayment. I had spent my entire adult life being dependable, being useful, being the backup son who showed up when Kevin failed and disappeared when Kevin succeeded. I had never asked for credit. I had never demanded recognition. I had simply paid and paid and paid, believing that love was transactional, that if I gave enough, eventually I would matter. I had been wrong. I pulled up my laptop and opened a spreadsheet. Column 1, date. Column 2, recipient. Column 3, amount. Column 4, purpose. Column 5, repayment status. I started with the most recent Christmas purchases. $1,263 in gifts for Madison, Tyler, and Sophie. 3 bikes, 2 gaming consoles, designer clothes, art supplies, Bluetooth speakers, wireless headphones. All purchased under my name, all paid from my account, all disguised as gift from my parents so Kevin could take credit. Repayment status. None. I scroll back further. November, October, September. Months of recurring payments I had canceled that morning. Months of standing transfers that had drained my account while Kevin posted photos of family vacations and new furniture and date nights at expensive restaurants. Kevin's car insurance. $3,952 over 16 months. Repayment status. None. Kevin's gym membership. $2,136 over 24 months. Repayment status. None. Madison's dance lessons. $3,600 over 24 months. Repayment status. None. Tyler's football league. $1,800 over 3 seasons. Repayment status. None. Sophie's preschool tuition. $10,800 over 24 months. Repayment status. None. I kept scrolling. The numbers climbed. $5,000. $10,000. $20,000. $30,000. I stopped at $42,673. $42,000 I had given to my family over the past 5 years. Loans that were never repaid, bills that were never reimbursed, subscriptions that were never transferred, gifts that were never reciprocated. $42,000. And in return, my son had received a pen. I pulled up my email and drafted a message. No subject line, no greeting, just a spreadsheet attached and a single sentence. This is what dependable looks like. I addressed it to Kevin, Mom, and Dad. My finger hovered over the send button. Then I stopped. Sending it now would be satisfying. Yes, but satisfaction was not the same as impact. If I sent it now, while emotions were high, they would dismiss it. They would call me petty. They would tell me I was keeping score, holding grudges, being unreasonable. I needed them to understand that this was not about anger. This was about accountability. This was about $42,000 in proof that I had been erased, exploited, and discarded while pretending everything was fine. I saved the email as a draft and closed my laptop. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Ryan, please talk to me. I do not understand what happened. We love you. We love Ethan. This is all just a misunderstanding. I stared at the message. Love. She said love. But love was not a word. Love was action. Love was showing up. Love was making a child feel seen and valued and worthy of more than a 99-cent pen on Christmas morning. I typed back slowly. If you loved Ethan, you would have bought him a real gift. If you loved me, you would have noticed I paid for Christmas. But you did not, because we do not matter to you. We never have. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The message turned blue. Read. Mom was typing. Then she stopped. Then she started again. Then she stopped. No response came. I set my phone down and walked into Ethan's room. He was asleep, his face peaceful, his small body curled under the blanket. The pen sat on his nightstand, a cheap plastic reminder of everything I had tolerated for too long. I picked it up and turned it over in my hands. It felt weightless, insignificant, almost laughable. But in that moment, it was the most important object in the world. It was proof. It was evidence. It was the breaking point I had needed for 32 years. I set the pen back down and leaned against the door frame, watching my son sleep. Tomorrow, I would take the next step. Tomorrow, I would make sure Kevin understood exactly what he had lost when he decided my son was not worth a real Christmas. Tomorrow, I would stop being dependable and start being unavailable. But tonight, I stood in my son's doorway and made a promise. Never again. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 new text messages. I ignored them all and focused on Ethan. We made pancakes together. We watched cartoons. We played board games on the living room floor, surrounded by boxes of gifts that no longer belonged to the children they were meant for. At 11, my phone rang again. Kevin. I let it go to voicemail. He called back immediately. I declined. He called a third time. I answered, "What do you want, Kevin?" His voice was strained, panicked in a way I had never heard before. "Ryan, my car insurance lapsed. I got pulled over this morning. They impounded my car. I need you to reactivate the policy now." I leaned back on the couch. My tone flat. "I cannot do that." "What do you mean you cannot do that? You have been paying it for over a year. Just log in and turn it back on." "I canceled it permanently. You will need to get your own policy now." Silence. Then slowly Kevin's voice dropped. "What did you do?" "I stopped paying for your life, just like you asked me to." "I never asked you to do that." "You did, actually. When you told me Ethan didn't need flashy stuff. When you gave him a pen while your kids opened bikes and consoles I paid for. You told me very clearly that my son doesn't matter. So I decided to stop matching too." Kevin's breathing grew heavy. "Ryan, this is insane. You cannot just cut me off like this. I have bills. I have responsibilities. I have kids." "So do I, Kevin. I have one kid. And he asked me on Christmas morning if he was not good enough. Do you understand what that did to me? Do you understand what it feels like to watch your son realize he is worthless to his own family? That's not fair. We didn't mean to hurt Ethan. We just thought. You didn't think about Ethan at all. You never do. None of you do. And I am done pretending that is okay." I hung up. Kevin called back immediately. I declined. At one, Mom called. I answered on the third ring. "Ryan, your father and I are very worried about you. This behavior is not like you." "You're right, Mom. It's not. Usually I'm quiet. Usually I'm dependable. Usually I'm the one fixing everyone else's problems while mine get ignored. We didn't ignore Ethan. We love Ethan. Then why did you give him a pen, Mom? Why did you spend $4,000 on Kevin's kids and 99 cents on mine?" Her voice faltered. "We thought you would buy Ethan his own gifts. We thought you understood the plan." "The plan?" "The plan where I pay for Christmas and then watch my son cry because nobody thought he was worth a real present? That plan. Ryan, this is not about money. This is about family. Family helps each other." I laughed, bitter and cold. "You're right. Family does help each other. Which is why I've spent the last 5 years paying Kevin's bills, covering his kids' expenses, funding your streaming services, and phone plans and cloud storage. I have given this family $42,000. And in return, you gave my son a pen." Silence. "Ryan, I didn't know you were keeping track." "I wasn't. I just pulled the receipts yesterday." $42,000, Mom. $42,000 to a family that has never once asked how Ethan was doing. Never once remembered his birthday without a reminder. Never once made him feel like he mattered. That is not true. We love Ethan. We do. Then prove it. Right now. Tell me one thing about Ethan that does not involve me. Tell me his favorite color. Tell me what he wants to be when he grows up. Tell me the name of his best friend at school." Silence. "You cannot, can you? Because you don't know. You have never asked. You have never cared enough to ask." Mom's voice broke. "Ryan, please. This is tearing the family apart." "No, Mom. The family tore itself apart a long time ago. You just didn't notice because I was too busy holding it together." I hung up. At 3 o'clock, Dad called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. "Ryan, you need to grow up. This is childish. Your brother is in a tough spot because of your tantrum. His car is impounded. Madison's dance lessons are canceled. Tyler's football fees bounced. You are hurting innocent kids because you are mad about a Christmas gift. That is not how adults handle problems." I listened to the voicemail twice. Then I deleted it. At 5 o'clock, Kevin showed up at my apartment again. This time, he was alone. This time, he was not pounding on the door. He knocked softly, almost tentatively. "Ryan, please. I know I screwed up. I know I took you for granted, but my kids are crying. Madison thinks she did something wrong. Tyler thinks he is being punished. Sophie doesn't understand what is happening. Please, I am begging you. Give me the presents. I will pay you back. I swear." I opened the door without unchaining it. "You told me Ethan didn't need flashy stuff. You told me he would understand. So, I'm telling you the same thing now. Your kids will understand. They're good kids. They don't need all that material stuff anyway, right?" Kevin stared at me, his face pale. "Ryan, please. I'm not giving you the presents, Kevin. I am donating them to a children's hospital, to kids who actually need them. Kids whose families cannot afford Christmas. Kids who matter. Kevin's face crumpled. You are punishing my kids because you are mad at me. No, Kevin. I am protecting my kid because you taught me that family doesn't matter. You taught me that love is conditional. You taught me that some children are worth thousands of dollars and some are worth a pen. I'm just applying the lesson. I closed the door. Kevin stood in the hallway for a long time. I could hear him breathing. I could hear him crying. I could hear him leave. The following Saturday, Ethan and I loaded the bikes, consoles, and clothes into my car and drove to the children's hospital across town. The donation center was quiet, staffed by a kind woman in her 60s who looked at the pile of boxes with surprise and gratitude. This is very generous, she said, scanning the items. Are you sure you want to donate all of this? I nodded. I'm sure. Ethan stood beside me, his hand in mine, watching as the woman cataloged each gift. A purple bike with streamers, a gaming console with 3 controllers, designer clothes still in their packages, Bluetooth speakers, wireless headphones, art supplies. Everything that was supposed to make Kevin's children happy, now going to children who would appreciate them more. The woman smiled at Ethan. Did you help pick these out? Ethan shook his head. My dad bought them for my cousins, but they didn't deserve them, so we're giving them to kids who do. The woman glanced at me, her expression shifting to understanding. She knelt down to Ethan's level. That is very kind of you. The children here are going to be so happy. Ethan smiled, a real smile, the first one I had seen since Christmas morning. We drove home in comfortable silence. My phone had stopped buzzing. The texts had slowed to a trickle. Kevin had not called in 2 days. Mom had sent one final message asking me to reconsider, to forgive, to come back to the family. I had not responded. Dad had not reached out at all. That evening, Ethan and I sat on the couch together, eating pizza and watching a movie. Halfway through, he paused the screen and looked at me. Dad, are we still going to see Grandma and Grandpa? I considered the question carefully. I don't know, buddy. Maybe someday, but not right now. Why not? Because they hurt you, and they didn't apologize. And I'm not going to let anyone hurt you, even if they are family. Ethan nodded slowly. What about Uncle Kevin? Same thing. What about Madison and Tyler and Sophie? I hesitated. The kids were innocent in all of this. They had not asked to be spoiled. They had not asked to be favored. They were just children caught in a dynamic their parents had created. Maybe someday, I said again, when they are older, when they understand. Ethan seemed satisfied with this answer. He unpaused the movie and leaned against my shoulder. A week later, I received an email from Kevin. No subject line, just a short message. I talked to Mom and Dad. We all agree you overreacted, but I am willing to move past it if you are. Let me know when you are ready to apologize. I read the email twice, then I deleted it. There would be no apology. There would be no moving past it. There would be no return to the way things were, where I paid for their lives and disappeared into the background, where Ethan was invisible and I was dependable. I opened my laptop and pulled up the spreadsheet I had created. $42,673. I saved it as a PDF and printed a copy. Then I folded it carefully and slipped it into an envelope. I did not mail it. I did not need to. The spreadsheet was not for them. It was for me. Proof that I had given everything I could. Proof that it had never been enough. Proof that I was finally done trying. I put the envelope in a drawer and closed it. That night, Ethan and I made hot chocolate and sat on the balcony looking out at the city lights. The air was cold, but the blanket was warm, and for the first time in years, I felt light. Ethan broke the silence. Dad, do you think they will ever say sorry? I thought about it. I thought about Kevin's email, about Mom's pleas, about Dad's silence. I thought about 32 years of being invisible, of being dependable, of being the backup son. No, buddy, I don't think they will. That's okay. We don't need them to. I smiled and pulled him closer. No, we don't. We sat there for a long time. Two people who mattered, watching the world move on without the family that had forgotten us. And for the first time in my life, I felt free.